What do you now know about the genre of action?
In regards to the genre of action, I've learnt quite a lot over the process of creating our film, because before our prelim I didn't really know much about it and I didn't really enjoy it as a genre, whereas now I've done a lot more research into it. I found out that it's a lot of fast-paced editing and it's typically quite male-dominated, and I enjoy it a lot more when watching films. What have you learnt about the process leading up to filming?
The main thing that I've learned is that storyboarding is really important so that you know which shots are crucial to film. Planning it out and planning the day and the timings really helps to keep to schedule. Also, doing target audience research is really helpful to see what's an important part that you need to include in your film opening. Jack, how has your acting improved since the prelim?
Well, I didn't really feature much in the prelim, so I think the confidence has grown in acting. And I also do theatre studies at A level, so as the years progressed, I've got a lot better in acting anyway. And we did a performance in theatre studies A level, so obviously my role in our film was a lot bigger and my group trusted me with the role. Whereas in the prelim I wasn't in it very much, I'm only at the beginning, and our group didn't really trust me with that role. And I got more dialogue in the prelim, but whereas in the film there was a lot more action and running, and so the group trusted me a lot more. Also with my A level we did a lot in theatre studies, we did a lot of physical theatre, so that helped me in terms of, because obviously our film's quite a physical film right at the end when the detective jumps on me, so that helped there. Also learning my lines in theatre studies, a lot more confident in that area. So basically since the prelim I've had a lot of time to prepare for the film. Kira, what have you learned about character representation since your prelim?
The most important area of representation we used in our piece was age, and we showed this through the different ages of the detective and the protagonist in our piece. One of the important ways that we used to show this representation was through costume, where we had our main character in just jeans and a jacket, whereas the detectives were in suits. Another way we showed the representation of characters was through our camera angles, and we used a lot of high-angle camera shots with the detectives looking down on him and making him seem less important, as we wanted to show him in comparison to our main character.
Okay.
So Nick, how have your filming techniques changed and improved since your prelim?
Well, I watched lots of action films and I saw that the camera's always moving in every shot. It's never still. It's like whenever there's a chase, the camera itself is moving. We also got POV shots, how shake works well. It sort of keeps with the action genre and works well, obviously running, shaking. It's not a flat surface. As also in the genre we're doing, we had lots of fast cuts. So, you know, using shots that worked well after each other, that was, you can't have a low angle shot and then instantly a high angle shot. It just doesn't make it very smooth, so you had to deal with that quite a bit as well. If you could go back, what would you do differently?
I'd probably film everything from multiple angles and at multiple speeds, because by doing that you can ensure that your film has high levels of continuity. This is something we struggled with in our prelim. In one of the shots where the door opened, there was varying speeds from one side of the door to the other side, and if we'd filmed it multiple times there was more chance that the door was opening at the same speed. How has your understanding of music composition developed?
Throughout the process of music composition I've learnt quite a lot, as before I had no idea what it entailed as a process. Through a lot of discussion with Max Chester, the boy who composed our piece, I learnt a lot about how to time mark pieces of music to important events in the film opening. As well as this, we talked a lot about the effect of percussion and percussion points during the piece. Nick, how have your skills using sound software improved?
Well, I've never actually worked with GarageBand before, so that was different. It's Apple's layout of everything is always different because their keyboard and their mouse work especially with the programs they've written. So I had to be careful with that, and it took quite a while to get used to it and get familiar, but I got faster with it. I also had to work out how to use volumes. For some clips need to be quieter than others. The gunshots were very loud, the actual file, so you had to quieten that down. And cutting, there was precision editing, which is really good on GarageBand for repeating bits of the sound. For the music we had towards the end, we wanted to use bits of the music, the original file, at the beginning and other parts at the end, so precision editing meant we could do that without it being obvious to people listening to the film. So, well, yeah, it worked really well. What were the main things you adapted between your prelim and the final opening role?
The acting skills were a lot different because obviously Ben not much practice in terms of acting, whereas I thought Simon, obviously working in the filming industry, he had a lot more experience in this role, and it was a lot more easy and more comfortable when I was acting. So in terms of adapting, I didn't actually have to do much because of Simon's experience in the field. Lily, what have you learned in regards to social media?
As CRJM Productions, we have multiple media accounts on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook and YouTube. These enabled us to keep a close contact with our audience and have constant responses throughout the process of creating our film. For example, when we were stuck on what to name our film, we just posted on Facebook a survey and got an audience response. In addition, we could show them how we're doing and update them constantly on what we're doing. How have your skills using video editing software improved?
Well, I watched lots of action films and I saw that the camera is always moving in every shot. It's never still. It's like whenever there's a chase, the camera itself is moving. We also got POV shots, how shake works well. It sort of keeps with the action genre and works well, obviously running, shaking. It's not a flat surface. As also in the genre we're doing, we had lots of fast cuts. So, you know, using shots that worked well after each other. That was, you can't have a low angle shot and then instantly a high angle shot. It just doesn't make it very smooth, so you had to deal with that quite a bit as well. Which directors and actors have inspired you?
The directors and actors who inspired me, Matt Damon from the Bourne series and Paul Greengrass, who directed 2 of the Bourne films. There was a lot of inspiration here because of, obviously, Jason Bourne, who Matt Damon is playing a very similar character to me, a framed criminal who isn't entirely sure about what's going on in his situation and just sort of reacts on instinct, and also very skilled. So I thought if I watched the Bourne films before filming, then it would be very good for our film. And Paul Greengrass does a lot of work in action films, and our genre is action, so I could take a lot of inspiration from Paul Greengrass.